Sync up that audio, dog.
All right, you guys, we are here with podcast number 2, your host, Jacob Wellock, a.k.a. JB Nasty, with DB Real, my older brother. Today's going to be a fun one. Last podcast and a clip that was shared on social media grabbed some attention. So we're actually going to start this podcast off with a little bit of health advice / funny. So today we're talking about something that is serious, but is also funny, but we're going to be mature about it. Yeah. Can your libido actually be a health marker? And my brother is the one that's super geeked out on a lot of this hormone stuff and everything, cellular function, all the things. So I'll chime in where I can, but I'm really just going to be handing this over to you, and we're going to talk about it. About if you're not horny, you're not healthy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So to give
you
guys
good topic for brothers.
To give you guys the full context, Jacob came in last podcast and he told me to give him a one-liner that would, be catchy. And for whatever reason, don't judge me, but that just popped right in my head and it flowed right off the tongue.
Yeah, it did. It was pretty natural.
So it was pretty natural.
I was a little caught off guard if you guys look at the clip on Instagram. I did not expect that.
But to frame the context of that and why I've personally invested time, energy into learning more about it and understanding it, one, I live with a primary care provider, right? We've been down this hormone path with myself, figuring it out, and I'll be able to share some history of my own path and all this as it relates to the topic at hand. I won't get too weird, so... And guys, if you're listening to this stuff with your kids and everything present, I do try to keep the 4-letter words at minimum, but I can't keep any promises.
It doesn't happen all the time.
And this topic in general, I don't want to stimulate the sexual conversation, sexual health conversation amongst you and your kids. So this one might want to be an earbud podcast. But
I mean, I'll just say most of the time I rate our podcasts under the explicit category.
You have to.
Not because of we're being over the top. It's just words tend to come out. And if you're if you're around munchkins, it's just be warned. There are some words that come out.
So this topic, in all seriousness, is a health-oriented topic, and I'm going to approach it from more anecdotally and my own history with it and what I've learned in that process. I am not a medical provider. I am not sharing medical advice. I am sharing my stories and my own learning and my own path in this. And I would suggest if any of this triggers something in your brain, like, okay, wow, to have that conversation with your primary care provider, like a legitimate one, somebody that actually cares about optimizing health versus just saying you're in the range of health. And, yeah, so I'm going to do my best not to just read, because I have quite a bit of notes on this, aggregated from my own journey, plus some newer research. But so the question was, or the statement was, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. Now, that in itself is a pretty blunt statement, but it is very clickbait. It is not the full story. Men and women are very different, right? And the different hormones, sexual response and desire is different for both men and women. What drives men and women are both different. The context that I will be discussing obviously is from a more male perspective. And if there's future interest, getting my wife on here to discuss, she's much more knowledgeable in the female aspects of it, both as a female, but more importantly as a primary care provider. So you guys take this for what it is. If there's somebody out there in the medical space and I totally screw something up in my explanation, by all means, call me out on it so I can correct it. My goal is to share accurate information the best that I can. But again, this is not medical advice. Don't take it. But if it stimulates a good conversation for you to have with your primary care provider, I think that's a good thing. So did I cover my bases, the lawyer shit enough with that, you think?
I think so. I think so. Hopefully we get to a point where we actually have to worry about that.
Yeah.
Size-wise.
Well, I mean, arguably,
yes.
we do have quite a few people in the gym that take I have to be very mindful of the health advice I do share, because there are people in the gym that do take it seriously and
100%.
and apply it to their life. So
Yeah.
it's like when it comes to things that are above protein powder and creatine, I try to reiterate, this is not my main area of expertise, like when it comes to exercise training.
No, I mean, I think that could be said for any fitness coach.
Yeah.
I mean, what we're speaking from is lots of experience. We've been in this building. I was talking to my client this morning. We've been doing this here specifically at this gym for over 13 years now. So we have a lot of experience with things. And this is a topic that is not necessarily discussed, or could be, I guess, labeled even taboo. So I'm curious to hear about your findings and experiences within reason.
Let's talk about the overarching here. So, like I said, if you're not horny, you're not healthy. So we're talking about libido, your sex drive. And this starts young, puberty, right? That's when hormones start developing. That's when reproduction, our own evolutionary or creationism bodies that were designed in our experience and belief by God to procreate offspring, right? That is the driver of sexual desire. That's why it's there, to procreate. So as we age, this changes, and it makes sense, right? We're getting older. We're not meant to live forever. And arguably, as we get older, our ability to take care of children, offspring, and to procreate healthy children goes down as we get older. Cell division, metabolic health, all these things play an influence on our genetic profile. And when those genes are coming together to create a child, you want to be the healthiest version of yourself possible, and that's typically in our younger years. So that's typically, and Jake, we're working on our posture and our coordination for this. So typically in our younger years, that's going to be much more optimal for all the obvious reasons. You have more energy, you're healthier, you're younger, everything's firing off. So as we get older, decade by decade, it is normal to have changes to sexual desire in your health in response to that. And what I'm getting at there is, as we get older, having lower sexual desire does not mean you're not healthy, like the clickbait said.
I mean, I could even, if I flip the script on that, I think I know, probably from your experience, let's talk about high school, college, or whatever, know many people that are very unhealthy and are some of the horniest people I've ever met in my life.
Oh, 100%. And yes, young, thriving hormones can overcome a lot of metabolic and poor life habits. Shitty sleep, drinking. I mean, everybody remembers college days, right? Poor nutrition choices, lack of exercise, getting fatter, and you still have a sex drive. So, I mean, good hormones, high producing brain activity in our younger years can overcome that. And that's a big area of why you can get away with so much shit. And I think everybody knows this and can relate to this. What you can get over with in your later teens and your 20s starts to go downhill in your 30s. And then in your 40s, you really start to notice it. You're not getting away with that stuff anymore. And this is a big driver of it, is hormones. So, So at the top level, you have the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, the HPG axis.
Love me a good HPG axis.
Yeah. So that is a hormone signal to your pituitary gland to trigger your luteinizing hormone and your follicle stimulating hormone. So your luteinizing hormone is going to go to your testes, ovaries, and tell your body to produce androgens, testosterone, estrogen, so forth. Your follicle stimulating hormone is going to go to your testes and your ovaries and trigger your production of sperm and your production of eggs. So those are the two main drivers there.
Need to write this down.
Yeah, so
I'm learning here too.
So yeah, pituitary gland is what triggers all this. And that's the top level. So there's a lot of things that affect this, inputs that affect the outputs of this. Energy availability, so calories, stress levels, sleep, body fat, inflammation, overall, your hormone levels, ghrelin and leptin, your hunger hormones can actually signal. They can't really remember this, but like they can signal in the inverse, if I remember right. So this is where I stumble, but
it's okay.
Like overeating a ton of processed food. Let me simplify this, right? Eating a bunch of junk food, processed food, sugary food, things that are quote unquote, whether you believe they're addictive or not, can disrupt the hormone signaling of your sex hormones. And you're not getting accurate inputs from leptin and ghrelin to just tell you when you're full and hungry accurately, so they can create this hamster wheel of a negative effect where you're driving your sex hormones down, but you're also gaining tons of body fat. And when you gain tons of body fat, it can really start disrupting your metabolic health, which can really start disrupting your hormone production. And one of the big things when we start getting excess body fat is you start aromatizing more testosterone into estrogen, and that can get really out of whack for men in a very meaningful way. And it just be this cascade that once the snowball starts downhill, it's pretty tough to stop it and change direction. Hope that kind of makes sense.
So interesting. Would you probably seen this study before? I don't remember who did this study. It's probably an easy, quick Google search. I've seen it multiple times. In the scope, your opinion, I have my opinions, but I'll ask your opinion. So in the 1950s, as compared to now, men's testosterone is about 50% less than it was back in the 40s, 50s, and 60s. What and why? What are the biggest contributors that are modern today that weren't back then that could be contributing to this massive decline, and specifically men?
Yeah, so you're right. It's 30 to 50% is what the studies say, from depending on what decade you pick there. But there is a well-studied and scientifically accepted decline in male testosterone across the board. And it's a problem. It's a problem. Like there were men in their 50s and 60 years old that were higher testosterone levels in the 50s and 60s than your average 30-year-old is now. So, in my opinion on this, it is environmental, it is lifestyle are the two biggest drivers, and stress.
So when you're talking about environmental, what do you mean specifically?
I hate to get too weird on the whole microplastic topics, but we are exposed to a ton of estrogen-oriented things, and our bodies do absorb microplastics. They actually do cross the blood-testicle barrier and the blood-brain barrier, and it has shown that they can bind to estrogen receptors. So take that for what it is.
I don't even think it's really conspiracy theory anymore. I think that's why you're
they're
saying
finding
that.
it in cadavers, like up to 2 tablespoons of microplastics crossing the blood-brain barrier.
Yeah, and some of these forever chemicals. I mean, they're specifically, and I'm speaking on men's behalf because I am one of them. I can speak to an experience that there's brands, one of them being called Nads, which is a men's underwear brand, purely built and based around this principle of like modern polyester underwear for most dudes, which I still wear. But
same. I tried Nads.
Yeah.
It was terrible.
Yeah. Some of them, it's almost like too much. Like there's the camp of like, who's the meat eating guy?
A lot of them.
Saladino.
Yeah, Paul Saladino.
Yeah, who's like, well, you should only wear cotton everything all the time. And sometimes cotton stuff, depending on what you're using for, kind of sucks. I mean, I understand the argument, but there's like, pick your battles. But there actually are proven studies around these things now between microplastics, what your body absorbs, what we wear, what we eat, all these things.
Just to get off topic, but on topic real quick, when it comes to microplastics, and any of you guys, some of the coaches know really well, But when Claire had her diagnosis, I kind of went heavily down the rabbit hole on all things potentially body disruptive. Microplastics was a big topic in our house. And before I got too crazy with it, and me and Cassie both went down the rabbit hole on this. You can drive yourself nuts on this topic when it comes to environmental things affecting your health.
That can be exhausting.
And it comes down to, is this the thing that's going to kill you? Probably not. But there are big apples, if you will, or big rocks that you can limit your exposure with simple change. And that's kind of where we settled. One of the big ones when it comes to microplastics going back into the environment and into our clothing is washing machine pods. Things you throw into the washer.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Those plastic pods, they dissolve, but they don't really disappear.
Yeah.
So it ends up in our water system. It ends up in your clothing, and that is one of the massive ones studied that contribute to microplastics going into the environment. So in that context, it's in your clothes. It gets on your skin.
Well, an interesting, misleading one because our government and food industry and everything is so honest about everything. On that topic, if you consume things from cans, majority of the cans,
They're lined with plastic.
Yeah. So it's actually not even like an aluminum can on the inside of it. It's just a plastic. Yeah. Speaking of that, it's cracked open.
Yeah.
Is a plastic barrier. So it may be, microscopical on what is being digested, if you will. But if you're doing this over the course of years and years and years, thousands of cans, clothing, washing pods, whatever it is, if you're exposed to it from 100 different areas multiple times a day over the course of decades, that's where these, like, would you say the teaspoon or tablespoon, brain barrier, whatever, like that is where it's coming from because we're exposed to it in so many different ways.
You're going to get exposed to it. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Living in the modern day world, you're going to get exposed to it. Your body does deal with it pretty well. Your liver does filter it out. You do piss out a lot of it, but it does cross the blood-brain barrier and the blood-testicle barrier, which are two of the most protected parts of the entire human body.
And these were things that were probably people in the 50s were not exposed to. Or if they were, it was in very minimal amounts. It wasn't the daily routine.
Honestly, if I had to pinpoint it, it was the advent of Tupperware.
Yeah. Storing your food, absolutely.
So before then, lots of things were made of clay, glass, so forth. People weren't storing food for long-term duration.
Sure.
Like you're buying your food or killing it or growing it and consuming it like that week. Right. So
yeah.
The whole food industry changed, longer shelf lives, transported. Food's now being transported from around the world to our grocery shelves. So how that food is transported was affected by this plastic, which is ultimately driven by petroleum. And it's here to stay. It's not going anywhere. So
yeah, it's how we mitigate it, right? But I mean, this is just one of many things that I'm sure we'll talk about, contributors to it screwing with everyone's hormones on both sides of the aisle, men and women.
Just one last point on it. If you guys want to know what the big rocks are to limit your microplastic intake, one, if it's hot, drink out of clay or glass, ceramic or glass.
Yeah.
Or stainless steel, like Yeti cup and whatnot. If it's hot, the heat will extract more plastics into the fluid than not hot.
Yeah, in a way, not quite literally.
So
but it's
like
melting
styrofoam cups, your cups that you get at a coffee shop or whatever, are one of the biggest contributors, like the biggest, by all means. Next to that is plastic water bottles. So any plastic water bottle, chances are that's sitting in a warehouse. It went through heat-cold cycles, and it just is going to absorb at some level some kind of microplastics. So limiting your consumption of fluids from things that are plastic, especially things that go through potential hot-cold cycles, traveling in a truck, sitting in a warehouse, whatever. So not drinking out of plastic cups, especially hot, is like number one biggest thing. And then one of the other ones is heating and cooking in plastic.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I've always kind of known that and felt that about water bottles. You drink a water bottle that's in like a Crystal Geyser water bottle out of plastic, and you drink it on a hot day, it kind of tastes like shit. It's like part of you knows it's like this plastic is melting in there. So in my house, if I have for emergencies or whatever, some random couple bottles of water in there, and if they're through the summer and I haven't drank them, I'd throw them in the trash, the whole case.
Yeah.
And it's funny to think if you backtrack, and I could be wrong, there's probably zero regulations around these companies storing them in warehouses going through these hot and cold cycles. Like you said, they're probably not stored at an ideal temperature. And then when it's in the consumer's hands, it's up to them to manage it, because that information, they're not going to say if you don't consume, or if you consume this when it's hot, it's going to be bad for you.
Well, and arguably
It's gonna be bad for business.
Well, there's that, but there's no direct, like scientifically studied direct correlation to health.
So you'd have to do it by the
health
mass.
risk disrupting causation, right?
Yeah.
So when trans fats came onto the market in whatever the 80s, 70s, 80s, I can't remember, that caused such a massive increase in heart disease that was immediately seen amongst the population. That was immediately seen across the board, where the government had to step in and remove trans fats from all things. Get rid of it.
Mm-hmm.
Microplastics, it's one of those areas of fugazi in the health space. Is it disrupting? Is it not? Is there enough evidence to be mindful? But is there enough evidence to drive yourself freaking crazy over obsessing about it?
But it is worth looking into for these things.
Yeah.
I mean, on an extreme example, there were doctors, again in the 50s, that were promoting smoking as being a healthy habit. So take some of these things with a grain of salt. If it comes from the FDA or the government, not sound conspiracy theory, like what they say is not, 100% for the benefit of all of us, that it is in our hands to do our own research and
it's in our hands to do our own research. And I mean, I'm in the camp of, I think lots of oversight sucks, but in their defense, this stuff's really difficult to study.
Sure.
Right.
Sure. If you just take it at face.
I can't take human beings and subject them. We're going to subject this group to 5 years of direct microplastic exposure, and this
absolutely.
group not. Like, it's inhumane.
No, absolutely. I think that's where it comes down to your own discernment of like, if maybe I shouldn't drink these hot bottles of water every single day throughout my kids' sports seasons.
Well,
Maybe it might be bad. Like, there's certain things that you can do on your own.
Certain and very simple. Right, it's easy to drink out of a clean canteen, Yeti kind of deal. It's easy to refill one of those. It's easy to have those to get your coffee and stuff poured into. These are just easy, very actionable, executable. It saves the environment. We use less plastic. Like, it's just simple. So it reduces exposure, and it's simple in execution. It's reasonable. So next on the list of environmental,
I was just going to add one last thing to that.
Yeah.
If you're drinking hot water bottles, you're probably not horny.
That's fair.
Okay.
All right.
Moving on.
So another one, if I had to throw a dart, the amount of hormones and stuff that are used in meat manufacturing, I have a hard time not believing that some of that doesn't come through into us to some degree. Maybe I'm reaching here, but there's been a massive increase in the usage of that over the last, 20, 30, 40 years, 50 years. So that's me throwing a dart there. Other environmental things, there's a lot out there. I mean, there's a lot of, depending on what city you live in, the amount of air pollution.
Flint, Michigan.
Yeah. I mean, there's just shit, right? So it's just something environmentally being mindful.
Yeah.
Not drive yourself crazy. I think it's important to get some things tested in your house. Get your water tested. We use reverse osmosis at our house. It's just a layer of quality control. You can get your air tested for like radon and various other things. That causes cancer and all kinds of other shit. But you can do mold testing. These are other environmental things that can disrupt health that you can do some testing where you live and most active in and sleep in. That can be very impactful on your health. So those are simple, actionable things when it comes to environmental. Next would be, people's general lifestyles suck now. Our obesity rates in this country are growing at a rapid rate. The funny thing is gym memberships are also growing at a rapid rate, but the country keeps getting fatter. So there's something not working there. Now, just because you're paying for a membership and that's how those things are collected, those data points, doesn't mean you're using it and or using it effectively. Yeah. So we know that there's not a correlation between money paid and outcome. Fitness is still one of those things that the work has to go in no matter what. And we are in a society that is way less active and way over-caloried. And getting into the processed food debate, processed food is an ultra-processed food is so accessible. Is it the end-all be-all of health? No. But it is so accessible. It's scientifically designed to taste good. To satisfy your taste buds and to get you to enjoy it and like it.
Hyper
palatability. And that's done by design. Food companies are for-profit companies and they want you buying their products and eating their stuff. So from a business standpoint, I get it. And it needs to be able to travel a long ways. It needs to be able to sit on a shelf and not go bad. It's just the nature of the industry and the world we live in and how we feed.
So I watched a documentary. I forgot what it was called. It was about, I think, the state of all these things that we're talking about, industry, American industry specifically, and foods. This guy talked about bringing up this point. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts. So we know like social media, tech, food industry, all these really big industries literally spend billions of dollars a year to get the consumer, us, to buy into their product or be on their product like social media. Yeah. So this guy who used to work for one of these companies actually argued that the state of American health, and one facet of this argument here, is actually not, he put the blame on the industry and the people in power, the corporations, and actually said the blame is not entirely there on the consumer. When you have this oversight or overlords, however you want to look at it, these people that are able to spend billions upon billions to make sure you are consuming or watching their thing, you're fighting as a consumer, you're fighting this uphill battle that what he argued is not your fault. He's like, the reason the way people are right now is because the amount of money and resources that are allocated to make us essentially fat because 100%. It makes us money. So I'd be curious if you think like, how much percentage-wise, if you had to put percentages on it, how much of the percentage is fault for the industry / corporations, and how much percentage fault is it on for the individual?
So from a socioeconomic standpoint, the more educated you are, the more opportunity for knowledge you have. Again, where that education is driven from, right? Getting a nutrition degree in college doesn't mean you're going to know shit about health. Medical doctors aren't taught anything about nutrition in medical school, like at all. So even our educational institutions aren't delivering the most current, accurate, up-to-date information when it comes to nutritional health.
No, that could be said for a lot of things.
So so when you think about going through life, you're exposed, you're the average of the 5 things and 5 people you surround yourself with. So when this is the norm of what I'm surrounded with, how I was raised in my house, what was normal for my parents, that's where you're going to pick up your habits, traits, knowledge, and understanding. You combine that with massive budget and marketing influence through social media and everything. They're going to have your product in front of you, and nobody's going to put a product in front of you that says, in quotes, like, cigarettes can cause cancer, like it has to be on there. They're not going to put a product on these quote unquote multi-grain, gluten-free chips that says these can also make you fat.
Yeah, this is going to give you diabetes.
Yeah, so they're not required to put any of those warning labels on there. Should they have to? Should they not? There is personal responsibility, but there's a lack of education. So when it comes to blame...
Yeah, if you had to put a number on it.
If I had to put just a generic throw a dart number, 60 to 70% corporation, 30% consumer, but I do have a caveat of personal responsibility there. Our access to information is stronger and better than it's ever been. in the history of the world.
True.
You can get into a library for free. You can, and Instagram, social media can be as powerful, as destructive as you want it to be. But there are good people out there putting out good free health content that will get your needle of health moving in the right direction. And with our modern day internet, AI, social media, our access to information and self-education is at the highest level it's ever been in history.
This is true. This is to not go off topic, but with topic of information, I got two things to add here. I was listening to a pastor the other day. This is a whole different topic, but he brought up this point that the scientists did. The amount of information can also be exhausting in this day and age. Like you said, there is so much available free information for us to go out. So there is a lot of responsibility on us because the information is there, but then you could also make the counter argument. There is so much information available that you're like, I don't even know where to start. You're presented a million options. But what this pastor was saying, gets my 2 points, I'll throw it back to you, is every 28 days, the information that is accessible in the world doubles every 28 days. So all the information that's out there in the world because of AI and digital, our information is doubling at a rate every 28 days. Doubling. With all the information we have, which is insane to think about. It's an outrageous number. Last funny thing to add, and this kind of goes off our last topic, or last podcast, with AI, and how AI can be a great tool. But if you don't know how to, fact check it, if you will, and kind of take it at a face value and not say like, yeah, that is for sure, like, that's true. I have a great thing that I brought up, and I wanted to see if this was true. I saw someone do this the other day. And I'm like, I have to try this. This is going to be hilarious. And sure as shit, it was right. Okay, so I asked ChatGPT. I want to hear what your thoughts are as a human being. This is AI. I'm going somewhere with this. So my question is, ChatGPT, I need to wash my car, and the car wash is 100 meters away. Should I walk or drive? What would your answer be? You.
Drive.
Why?
Because you're getting your car washed at the car wash.
So I asked ChatGPT this question. I need to wash my car, and the car wash is 100 meters away. Should I walk or drive? ChatGPT's answer, honestly, you should walk. Here's why. The distance is 100 meters, 328 feet. That's about a 60 to 90 second walk. Driving would take, start the car, back out, drive 5 seconds, pull in, park. That's probably longer than walking. So the simple rule of thumb, if the destination is less than 300 meters, you should walk, and if it's greater than 500, you should drive. Bonus, since you're a CrossFit guy, you'd probably burn like 5 to 10 calories walking, which technically means you can justify one more bite of dinner.
It's priceless.
I saw this as a meme, and I was like, this got to be photoshopped. I have to try it. Literally pulled out my phone, or I was already on my phone, pulled out ChatGPT, typed that in, and went, no way. It's not as... So my point being is, yes, it is great for like researching articles. Like there's different models you can use on there, like thinking models and stuff that will actually give you like sources. But if you're just using the auto features on a lot of these, this conversational feature, it will just give you some shit like that with no logical reason.
No, I learned anytime you talk anything scientific, health, nutrition, whatever, I have to tell it reference articles. I want to reference scientific journals on these topics. And it changes it. Yeah. So that's just funny with, as far as going back to corporation industry, putting a percentage on it, like having access to information. Yes, these AIs are cool because it gives us so much information, but if you were to take in these things in a literal sense, what it's putting back at you. And another thing, especially when it comes to heavy topics like this that are very subjective in nature, even this goes for us right now in this podcast, there are, like I said at the beginning, a lot of this is like anecdotally to me. There's a lot of influencers out there in the space sharing health and knowledge that is anecdotally to them.
Sure. Yeah.
So somebody goes off the rails on some outrageous claim that helped them transform some aspect of their life. And this popped up a lot in the Crohn's health research, that I did for my daughter. It doesn't mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean it didn't work for them. The human body and body to body, genetics to genetics respond to different things, inputs, outputs differently to a degree. There are fundamental facts, and then there is nuance when it comes to the human body.
Yeah, that's great.
And this is when I go back to working with a knowledgeable well-versed medical provider when it comes to these topics, particularly on a higher level, even nutrition, but on a higher level when we're getting into the hormone stuff, it's vital. It's vital. Because now in this industry, there's so much bullshit out there when it comes to some of these clinics and the shit you can get online. And it's diluted, it's gross, and it's a problem. So
absolutely. And when anecdotally, I mean, not to sound
the ease in
smart,
which you can get testosterone now online is disgusting.
Sure. When we speak anecdotally, speaking from an influencer, it's easy to call them out, right? Hopefully, I never, that's a title I really never want, but maybe it is. I don't know. As long as the influence is positive. Is if I run a bullshit experience or experiment and then put it out to the world that this is fact, and then have a group of people, a culture believing what I'm saying, that's where that nuance you said is important. So I like using analogies to make you think. So we believe eating whole foods, getting your protein and everything like that is the good thing to do. Yeah. You could have fitness influencer that says that is eating whole foods and doing all that, but let's say it's a bodybuilding influencer and has been experimenting with a 200-pound male experimenting with eating 600 grams of protein a day for muscle building. He's eating whole foods. He's technically, I guess, staying away from the processed stuff. But would you say that that is good advice for everyone else if he's running this personal experiment on himself to consume 3 times a normal dose of protein?
I'm just going to tell you guys, most things bodybuilders experience aren't going to be good for your long-term health. So
absolutely.
No.
But my point being, the nuance is, by definition, he is eating the whole foods, but he's doing it to an extent that if you're like, oh shit, I'm a 110-pound female, I should be consuming, I guess, 350 grams of protein, or whatever it is, you know.
So you're 100% correct, and it comes back to this key concept when it comes to nutritional health: is the dose is the poison.
That's good.
So
it's good. Put that on a t-shirt.
Yeah. So water in excess can kill you.
Yeah.
Right. Without water, you die. I think you get 3 days. I think you get 72 hours before you're done.
Yeah.
So the dose is the poison, and this comes down to damn near every single thing that goes into your body outside of like cyanide. Right. It's like there are things that it's going to kill you instantly.
Yeah.
But when it comes to protein, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins, all the things nutritionally nuanced. Is very dose dependent. Additives, food additives is another one that's very dose dependent equation. Saturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, cooking oils, all these things are pretty heavily dose dependent, and also individually how your body responds. Mm-hmm. So there is a good amount of nuance when it comes to navigating your health journey. And I would implore people to be okay being slightly experimental.
Yeah.
Like, I know for me to function well in the gym, recover the way I like to, I know if I'm not hitting somewhere near, 170 to 200 grams of protein per day, after a week or two of that, I'm not doing well. I know some people that feel great getting, 1 gram per kilogram of body weight, whereas I need closer to 2. Mm-hmm. And that's, maybe my activity level's higher, muscle density, training the way I train, like all these things play into that. And it is not, there are guidelines and rules, but you have to be willing to experiment to a degree, pushing the envelope needle one way or the other on these things. And some of it is nuance in testing, but also blood work can help guide the dose of whatever, like, for instance, cholesterol with me, I have to be very mindful of my saturated fat intake. Mm-hmm. Somebody who has a well-functioning liver that metabolizes saturated fat very well and is not storing and creating LDL cholesterol at a rapid rate can maybe thrive on a carnivore diet, right?
Yeah.
And have good blood markers. But then you hear that influencer say that story, and it's like all of a sudden carnivore is the way to go. And that was a trend for a hot minute.
And it could be the way to go for those 2-3 out of 10 people.
Yeah.
But for the other 7,
it's not.
Yeah.
So I don't function well in a vegetarian-oriented diet. I feel absolutely terrible, even if I'm getting my protein up there.
Yep.
These are testing things that I've done in my life. But to get back to, I guess, our topic of if you're...
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple points to bring up.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we'll recap that real quick. I got two things I bring up, and you can bring up whatever you want. Is your environment plays a huge part in your hormones.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, you being, I guess, consistently horny means that you probably have some balance of, if you're not like a teenager, where let's just say a middle-aged person, that you probably have some level of balanced health to you if it's not out of the norm of,
Yeah.
your libido. But I would say we take out the environmental factors and people's shit diets. Probably the next biggest contributor, in my opinion, would probably be sleep and stress.
Oh, huge. So your overall health, sleep and stress are going to affect your overall health, but they're really going to impact your hormones. And this can be both what's considered good stress and bad stress in excess. I will say the majority of people out there, even those who listen to this podcast, who are members at the gym, overtraining is not something that I'm concerned about.
No.
There's a few people that topic can be discussed, but in general, it's the stressors of life, work stress, relationship stress, the stress. And I think, and we'll get on my hill and say that stress is a massive driver of our state of health in this country. And it's both self-inflicted stress, us worrying about shit that's completely out of our control. Consuming political shit, the bullshit on Instagram, things that you have zero control or influence over, but is causing you to have a heightened level of awareness and anxiety about it. Mm-hmm. And we're inundated with it nonstop.
I think it goes back to information overload.
Information overload. And all this information, particularly from some of these topics, are done to get engagement, to drive that response so that you re-engage. It's perpetuated. Obviously everybody has work stress and, kid stress and whatnot, but stress is massive.
Through the strength training world, and just knowing how anabolics can affect, and like powerlifting, Olympic lifting, stuff like that, testosterone trend and bodybuilding and things like that. There are actually bodybuilders that are open about their drug use, but actually, what's the word I'm looking for? They're very caring to their audience. They're like, I take this, this, and this. You should not. This is why, but this is why I do it. Yeah. Some of these guys and bigger names that I follow that have been super honest about their journey have anecdotally tested these things. And there is some science to back this too, that if you could be on all the tren, if you guys don't know what tren is trenbolone. It's like the most potent anabolic steroid you can take currently. It actually completely rewires your brain. It's crazy what it does to people. It makes you huge. But you could be on god-awful amounts of tren. Let's say it turns you into a superhuman. You're only going to live for 5 years, but you'll be superhuman in that time frame. That if you could have god-awful high amounts of tren with zero sleep, the opposite, the bodybuilders would actually pick good sleep over taking high doses of anabolics, because good sleep is so much more powerful than what the power that we give it, that you essentially can't take enough steroids to outperform a shitty sleep habit.
No. 5 consecutive nights of disrupted sleep will drop your natural testosterone by up to 20%.
Yeah.
So,
and that's just simple.
Sleep is the single most powerful restorative tool for both brain and body. There's nothing more important than that in my mind. It's something I still am constantly trying to work on my sleep hygiene, and there are facets that I can still dramatically improve. But sleep is the biggest performance enhancing health deal there is.
And to keep us on track with our serious topic, we kind of talked about it, I think, for maybe a few seconds last episode, is you're getting good sleep, you're a man, you're waking up with morning wood.
So
That's actually an indication of probably good sleep, testosterone. I mean, you break that down. Go ahead.
yeah, and I will even share my own stories with morning wood.
Yeah, you will.
Yeah. So, testosterone in men, FSH supports sperm production, and then that luteinizing hormone stimulates. So you have FSH, LH. These stimulate testosterone production and sperm production. Right? That's the two big triggers. Then, when you create testosterone, this is going to influence. I'm talking about men right here. Libido, not libido, libido, muscle mass, bone density, mood, energy, obviously sperm production. In women, it's going to influence more estrogen production, progesterone, and ovulation. So men and women both have testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. They're in completely different ratios, and the male versus female bodies respond to each one of those differently. Testosterone is primary for men. Estrogen is primary for women. But both humans need all three in ratios. Mm-hmm. So that's where working with medical providers absolutely fucking matters. These hormones control, for women, menstrual cycle, fertility, libido, bone health, and mood and all those in a very meaningful, massive way. So men, as we get older, testosterone, everything starts declining with age. Men, it hits testosterone first. Women, it hits estrogen first. As we get older, men can go into, it's not socially coined term, but menopause, and women go into menopause. That's where basic hormone production basically shuts off. And not to get too off topic, but a whole generation of women got completely screwed out of hormone replacement therapy because of some bullshit studies that have been completely debunked then that really changed how our medical system approaches hormone health. And it's starting to change in a very meaningful and long-term health way now amongst medical providers, which I'm very happy to see. Mm-hmm. It didn't affect men very much. And there's a few podcasts, female podcasts out there talking about men and women's hormone health that is very much towards women's hormone health and how a whole generation, so basically like our mom's generation, you know, people that are in their 50s to maybe late 60s right now, mm-hmm. probably got the brunt of getting screwed over by that science. To where they went through perimenopause, menopause, when there was support there medically to help that time of life that was never offered or even considered. Whereas men have been able to get testosterone and HRT therapy since forever. You know, it's really become commonplace now and much more popular because of access to information. And arguably it's become too easy, but that too ease in these clinics and the online shit has all come up because true medical providers haven't evolved with current research to provide their patients with good medical care in this topic. And people got desperate and wanted help. They want help. It's that simple. And I mean, I got caught up in that. You know, I have a story of working with a couple different primary care providers, trying to figure out what and why is wrong with me in my late 30s. The runaround and the shit and the bullshit stories and the lack of, what he's going to say, empathy or give a fuck was disgusting.
Oh, yeah,
And it tipped me over.
Yeah.
So, women, there are providers out there now. Men, there are providers out there now that truly invest time, knowledge, education, up to current information on all this stuff, and they can truly help guide this in a health-oriented way to support your long-term health span. So, we know these hormones affect all these things. So, how does having sex drive matter in all this? So we know environmental things, stress things, age decline, all these things are going to affect these two hormones in a massive way. Mm-hmm. So if our sex drive is going down at a rate that's not acceptable to normal, natural, healthy age decline based on your lifestyle, this is where the red flag comes in. This is where the subjective analysis comes in of this being a health marker. So it's irresponsible to say I want the sex drive of late teenage, early 20-year-olds. That's prime time for breeding, right? It just is. So everything's firing off. That's when the human bodies, we go through puberty, and going through puberty makes us sexually viable to reproduce. It's the way it is. So that's going to be peak time. Once we hit our 30s, though, things start to decline, affected by all the things we've already discussed. So this is different for everybody. Everybody's sex drive is different. You have people who are hypersexual, and this can be driven by dopamine addictions. This can be driven by porn addictions. This can be driven by all kinds of bad shit. This can also be driven by your body has a great ability to produce sex hormones. So it's very individual. There is no consensus across the sex therapy world, the medical world, to my knowledge, of like, you should have sexual desire 3 times per week.
Sure.
Right? There's no number to put on it. It's very individual to you, what matters to you, your life, your relationship with your significant other. And that's how you kind of measure this.
Yeah, I would just say that the lack of, again, being on topic, lack of being horny really is just like a byproduct of some of these other things that could be contributors in your daily life.
Yeah.
So like, the processed foods, the stress, like looking at the things that you have control over and that you can mitigate, like there are genetic components, sure. There's a big one I'll bring up here is my last topic, and then we can move on unless you have something else you want to add to it. But these are all things that are in your control, especially this last one, which is a really tough one, or last point that I'll bring up, which is a really tough one for most people. I would say even, at a point ourselves included, because of the social thing around it, and that is consuming alcohol.
Oh, alcohol is a big one. So alcohol is a huge endocrine disruptor.
Yeah, I mean, not to be crass, as I'm wearing my cross, but particularly men I was not one of these people, but and that's not a joke, but who were very sexually active in their younger years. The joking term being used, and you can expand on this if you want, if you know the science to it between your luteinizing and follicle hormones, is the joking term of whiskey dick. Mm-hmm. There's a reason why that happens and how alcohol affects you in more ways than just this. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a beer. I love a good glass of whiskey. I love it. But there are literally zero benefits to alcohol at all, other than like the actual, like just enjoyment factor. There are no benefits to it physically, physiologically at all.
When zero metabolic positive effect.
In the context of sexual reproduction here, the whiskey dick, if you can, I can't. I don't know why that is. I know the expression, but I don't know like why does that happen? Why is alcohol such a big big issue in this?
So chronic alcohol use is going to completely disrupt your metabolic system, and it's going to wreck your testosterone. It's going to wreck your sleep, which is also going to wreck your testosterone. Your body is dealing with alcohol, and I'm having a brain fart right now, but it's treating alcohol as poison, acetyl alcohol. Your body has to shut down all other metabolic processes for your liver to deal with the alcohol, because if it doesn't deal with it, you will die quickly. Yeah. If you, I can't even remember right now, but the form of alcohol that it breaks down into acetaldehyde. Yeah. It will kill you. Yeah. So your liver deals with it and gets it out. Well, when it does that, everything else in the body goes on back burner.
Obviously no scientist, but I listen to the podcast. I'm sure there's people who listen to this who I've listened to Andrew Huberman, did like a 2-hour podcast breakdown individually of him doing his own thing on the effects of alcohol, not speaking from like a judgmental thing at all, like just gave the straight science.
Here's the biology.
This is what happens with alcohol. Is very fascinating listen. And I think in that he was talking about alcohol is the only, if we're speaking of addictions, like drug addictions, alcohol addiction, alcohol is the only one that you cannot just completely come to a stop cold turkey if you're truly like a raging alcoholic, because you will die.
You'll die.
You have to wean off. But other, like you can come off of heroin and these other crazy ass drugs, like you could stop right away. And with, you know, regards, I'm no fucking doctor, but my point being is alcohol is the only one that truly stands out as like, you have to slowly come off of this.
It's the only social drug that you're made fun of for not participating in.
Yeah. So the social impact of it is, it's a big deal because it's now including more
And I
people.
will say, alcohol consumption is going down dramatically, especially amongst our age group, but weed consumption is going up a lot, which is proving not to be a healthy alternative.
Shocker.
So, alcohol, whiskey dick. If I had to, once again, throw a dart and guess, it has to do with probably dopamine.
Yeah.
Blunting that in the short term. A huge part of sexual drive is going to be dopamine. And when you consume alcohol, you kind of have your stress. What's it called? Like, I'm not as scared to talk to the girl. You're not as. What's the word?
I'm not sure.
When you have a drink, the edge comes off. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Like you're able to go. You feel confident.
False confidence.
Yeah.
It
It brings
in
down
golf,
that.
we call it swing lube.
Yeah. You.
You drink before you go and tee off. It makes you feel a
So
little
there's
looser.
this balance, especially in the sexual health world, that you hear about people having a drink or two and it providing a very positive to their sexual life versus getting drunk
Yeah.
and then things don't worky. So, and a lot of that comes down to the psychological side of it because your fears, if confidence, whatever, your inhibitions are put back from a drink or two. So I'm not saying to drink to have whatever viable, high quality intercourse, but there is a balance to where your inhibitions, so the brain is not stopping. You're not overthinking it, if you will.
Yeah.
So I would
You're
say
going to get some courage to say some stupid shit.
So if I had to guess, outside of it absolutely destroying your testosterone production and long term ending up with erectile dysfunction from drinking, but in the short term going out and throwing down 5-6 drinks, getting drunk and wondering why your wee don't worky, it's probably because your metabolic process come completely off, blood pressure maybe out of whack, and your dopamine is just whacked. So
Word.
if somebody out there smarter has the actual answer to that.
I was going to say, we're just a couple of bros. You're smarter at this than I am. You know, I have my smarts and other things, but we could get a doctor on the podcast. If this is something you guys are truly interested in, we could actually get someone on here who could really break this down with
Cassie knows
their
this stuff
background
very
and
well.
credibility. Exactly. So just take it, as we know
We
it.
just fly through the rest of this. So testosterone being one of the major drivers for sexual desire and erectile function. This is in men. Women, testosterone does play a role in it, but it's not as big of a role. Estrogen plays a role in it. It is a bigger role than testosterone, my understanding, for women. Men are more animalistic in their sexual desire. It's pretty linear with men and sex. I think everybody can attest to that. And women, it's a lot more multifactorial, and I'm not...
Sure, I think there's nuance to that too, right?
Yeah, there's nuance to it. And not to sound like an asshole, but time of month, hormone production is different for women during different times of the month. Men are pretty constant in whether their hormones are either on a constant decline or constantly stable. It's a different endocrine driver when it comes to sexual desire, men versus women. Like I say, men are very linear, women are more complex, and it's by God's design, and it's for a purpose, and it's just different. It just is what it is. So getting to sexual desire in relationship to subjective perspective on your health, this comes down to you acknowledging where you were when you're at a healthy time, how you felt, understanding the rate of decline, where you're at by decade, what's gone on with your health, what's gone on with life that could be driving these factors to where, you know, if you're in your late 30s, early 40s, 50s, and you desire to be more sexually active and you're not, that could be a red flag that something may be going on in your health. And that's going to be a different question and answer for every single human being.
And I think that's the main point of this entire topic.
Yeah. Yeah. There's no set markers. So when it comes to metabolic health, men and women, metabolic syndrome, which is heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes, are going to be high blood. So metabolic health, how much visceral fat you have. So large waist circumference. What's your blood pressure at? If it's 130 over 85, what's silly is this number keeps going up as far as a low end standard. Used to be 120 over 80. Now it's 135 over 85. But visceral fat, blood pressure, elevated fasting blood sugar, high triglycerides, and or low HDL, elevated LDL. So good cholesterol, bad cholesterol. If your blood markers, these objective markers, if 3 of the 5 are present, you're clinically diagnosed as having metabolic syndrome. Does that make sense?
Yep.
So
there's a lot of fanciness.
Yeah. So you go to your primary care, you do a physical. They're going to measure this at the bare minimum.
Yeah.
If 3 out of the 5 of these, you have red flags for your overall health. Metabolic syndrome is one of the big contributors, which drives insulin resistance, which is going to just send your health cascading down. Hormones follow that. And sex drive is going to follow that. So the more unhealthy you get, the more fat you carry, the more insulin resistance you get, all these things are going to start declining in succession. Right? And that's both for men and women. It's probably more recognizable quicker for men, potentially, because more of our sexual desire is driven by testosterone, and these things are going to drive down testosterone a lot. But it's going to affect both. Sleep and stress. Most of our testosterone is made during REM sleep. If we're not getting high quality sleep, we're killing our testosterone. Cortisol increases, dopamine decreases, and our insulin sensitivity goes to shit and negatively impacts our libido, right? Stress elevates cortisol. Cortisol suppresses reproductive hormones. From an evolutionary standpoint, in this, you don't want to be creating children in a high stressful environment. Your ability to care and raise them goes down in a high stressful, high risk environment. So it's our body's natural defense mechanisms to protect ourselves. Is a creationism evolutionary way to think about it, how the human body functions, how by design it functions. So nowadays we live in a very chronic stress environment. Like I said, in many ways, we're not worried about getting shot on the prairie nowadays or whether some random disease is going to come and get us while we're taking a shit.
Damn.
You know, when you're looking when people are coming over here on the Oregon Trail, your daily fears were driven by, I got to have 10 kids because by the time we get to the end of the Oregon Trail, only 3 of them are going to be with me. Like, that's real. So stressors back then are a little different than they are now.
Now we worry about what iPhone we're going to get.
We're worried about what fucking Trump says or, the next technology coming out. You know, this stuff that's constantly jammed down our throats that we choose to engage in.
They're not immediate threats.
They're not immediate threats, but our body's going to perceive them as a stressor.
As a threat.
And when you're constantly and chronically engaging in all these things and that's why I've reiterated to you multiple times, if I can't control or have influence over it, I really don't want to hear about it. Doesn't mean I don't want to be uneducated or uninformed on this, but it's like I'm really trying to, for my own personal health, make sure I'm engaging properly in the things that I have control and influence over. And, being aware, being knowledgeable, educated voter, if you will, but hyper stressing over things that you don't have control or influence over is a negative impact to your long-term health and your happiness. And those things drive libido.
Yeah.
So take it for what it is, you guys.
Yeah.
Last topic on this topic, since I've been on it for a minute.
I know. Do you have like 25 pages of notes on this topic?
I do.
Damn.
Is more around the overtraining question.
That could be a whole different topic.
It
I could
can
just
be.
argue straight up in the gym, 98% of people are not overtraining.
In society, it's not an issue,
Yeah.
right? It's not the issue. But for those of you who are performance minded and do train hard and train consistently, it is something I want to bring up because we are a gym podcast. So when it comes to overtraining, the equation comes down. We said this in the last podcast, but it comes down to under recovery. You can train as much and as hard as you can recover from. If you're not recovering from your training, it's counterproductive. It's a negative stressor that will compound into your body breaking down. Mm-hmm. Training is a stressor.
Yeah.
And when your body recovers from it, it gets fitter, stronger, healthier. But in context, when it comes to libido and overtraining, this is probably an area that I personally notice things most. And it's a subjective. I know I've talked about my HRV, my resting heart rate, how I feel after, getting a good warm up in and listening to my whoop. And why do you have a whoop if you don't listen to it? There's lots of factors that go into me understanding if my body is primed to train and if I'm recovering from training. Libido is something I am very attuned with myself, and it's something that as of the last 4 or 5 years, 3 years for sure, but probably 4 or 5 years, I've noticed as I've approached 40s and got into my 40s that it is more affected by me not training smart, me not putting in the recovery things intelligently. And I'm not saying my sex drive has been a driver of changing and isolating my health. My whole health picture has been a driver, including everything that happened with Claire. Like, it's a big picture, right? We don't need to go over all that stuff. But it is a subjective measure that I can pick up on with myself that I might be taking shit too far when it comes to training.
What I would add to that, for overtraining, this isn't to sound like an asshole. There are elements of overtraining for the everyday person, especially I would say someone who is like an ex-athlete, let themselves go, jumps in, knows how to go hard, train really hard for a long time, or someone who's very excited about this new adventure in fitness. There's an element of overtraining there that can happen, but more often than not, they're going to have limitations on them from being out of the game, whether never having been in the game in the first place or being out of the game, that are going to slow them down before they really hit the pools of what overtraining feels like. The overtraining camp, in my opinion, as a coach, and actually having experienced this just a few times, and we've been athletes our whole life, really, that I would say is a very exclusive camp of people that if you're truly overtraining, this is a group of people that are, I would argue, probably pretty fit, have all these other factors, environmental factors, all these other things, for the most part, I would say relatively dialed, but maybe ignoring the aspects of recovery and sleep and things like that for the pursuit of performance when it comes to overtraining for most of these people, like athletes.
Yeah. I mean, there's still this concept that exists, the David Goggins mindset of more is better.
Sure.
So you apply that to a high-performing person. Like we grew up with a mindset of,
no pain, no gain.
Yeah, you need to be doing the work that nobody else is willing to do.
Yeah, and there's truth to that. And that's why we have people in our past that we've trained with before that would always complain about, oh man, my CNS is just smoked today. My CNS. Your CNS is not smoked. Like, there are people that use this to romanticize this idea of they're overtraining when they're just working out hard. Like, true overtraining can lead into depression. My greatest example of, I'll say, overtraining when I was first like not first, but a couple years into CrossFit where I was actually physically able in all of these areas when I really was training my ass off. And maybe you can break down the science of this. I was training so hard as a grown man. I think I was 28 years old, 27, 28 years old. I pissed the bed because I was in a season of competition training. I was training so hard every single day, having morning session, afternoon session, evening session when I got home. And I was doing this all the time with the aspirations of making it to regionals on the competitive side. Now there's like, okay, that is overtraining. If you're a grown man, you piss the bed and you didn't drink a lot of liquids the night before, your body's shutting down, you're depressed, you're like, what is going on? Looking at all other aspects of my life were dialed in. I wasn't drinking, I wasn't doing all this other bullshit. You know, you might be thinking like, oh man, I'm tired after training, I'm depressed, but I drink a bottle of Jack every single night. Like, well, eliminate that first, see if that fixes it. Like there are elements, if usually the overtraining camp is what I'm saying, is they have most other elements of their life, I will say dialed loosely with a grain of salt, that when you experience overtraining, yeah, you're not going to be horny. You're not going to be tired. You're going to be sad. You're going to be depressed. But it's not a recurring thing for people.
And overtraining, it's an envelope of a lot of things, and it comes down to your inability to recover. So if everything is not going, you're not eating well, you're not sleeping well, stressed out of your mind, work, kids, family, like whatever, all that stuff's going to affect your recovery. So when you are trying to train hard and be consistent and you have all that other stuff going on that's negatively impacting your recovery, it's still in context overtraining. Now, am I going to blame the training first, or am I going to say, hey, we're not doing necessarily too much training. Maybe we are for where you're at in your personal life, but we need to, depending on goals, right? Somebody's in that situation, but they're like, hey, I want to qualify for the CrossFit Games. Yeah. That's a hell of a lot different conversation than, the person that's just trying to move their health needle and, get their blood markers in line. That's a different conversation for each one. So when we're talking about overtraining, especially when it comes to using libido as a subjective indicator of whether you're taking things too far, you can't just look at training and say that's the reason why this is down. You have to look at training multifactorial with every aspect of your life. And maybe you're trying to train too hard because in my scenario, you're training too hard because it's your number one stress management tool, and you have shit going on in your personal life that's stressing you the hell out. And it becomes this cascading effect of driving yourself into the ground because your refusal to deal with the stuff going on in your personal life.
Or you're putting so much weight on the analogy of tipping the scales. You're literally trying to out-train all other facets of your life to compensate for that.
Yeah, it's a dopamine addiction too.
All this shit over here, it's weighing you down, so I'm going to train way harder to try and bring it up, and it's just going to wear you out.
I mean, physical activity, training, is a great dopamine kick. And when you're stressed, fighting, depressive symptoms and this and that, physical training is a huge tool for that.
Absolutely. And that's very much a personality thing too. A lot of people in the gym would say you take it to a whole nother level, you specifically. You also have a capacity to do things that most people don't. I have my own forms of stupidity where I do that shit in elements of training. But in the scope of overtraining, and I think you would agree with me to the extent, this should be the last box that you check on your list of things, in my opinion.
Yeah. And you don't need to keep beating the dead horse. We know not everybody trains that hard. Yeah. Right? So,
but point being, if you do feel like you are overtrained, you need to reverse engineer it and look at the other aspects of your life. Well, yeah, coach, man, I think I'm training too hard in the gym. I'm hitting these metcons too hard. Well, how do you sleep? I average about 4 or 5 hours a night. Oh, I drink this. Oh, I eat that. Oh, I do this. I'm stressed all the time. I'm going through a divorce. Like whatever it is, like you look at those things first, and then you can look at overtraining as a true viable thing of what's happening.
Let's break this down a little more, because you have that person, that client that's trying to do something positive for their life, right? Exercise gives them an uplift. The community being around it gives them an uplift. Great positivity. And if we're getting 3 to 5 workouts in per week and we're still not feeling like we're recovering from it, right? We're still feeling like shit. you should have 1 to 2 days per week of, per 7-day training span. In my mind, one of those 2 days out of every single week should be like thriving training sessions. Like you're feeling good. Mm-hmm. You want to push, the weights feel good. You just feel good. Mm-hmm. And this is something I've adopted the last couple of years.
Sure.
Like if I don't have 1 to 2 of those a week, something's not going right. So if you're not having one of those, if you're not having some of that, it's okay to train beat up. Today I trained beat up. Didn't feel great. That's okay too. It's the chronic exposure to this. And this is where a conversation comes down with me, your coach, and we just kind of look at things, right? Your life might be in a situation to where meaningful training and recovery for you might be 3 days a week with where everything else is. I'd say the goal for optimal health, performance, lifespan, health span, longevity is that we get to where we're moving our body intentionally 5 to 7 days per week. I said intentionally. I'm reiterating that. I didn't say we move our body with intensity 5 to 7 days per week.
We're not CrossFit Metconning 7 days a week.
No, and that's a huge growth curve for me that I wish I would have adopted a long time ago in high school. So we have to train intentionally. There needs to be intensity. There needs to be volume. There needs to be a reduction in intensity and volume, and being very intentional when intensity and volume are combined. When those two are combined, needs to be very intentional. And you need to understand it's going to disrupt things. So depending on what your whole 24 hours looks like, 7 days per week, every aspects of your life is all going to be influential on this whole equation of recovering from training. We do know that improving our physical fitness health is the single biggest lever that you can pull in your long-term health span and lifespan. Now, I will say statistically in our country, people are living longer. They're living longer drug supported. So their health span is shit, but they're staying alive longer.
Yeah.
So if we want to optimize our health span as we get older, we want to be sexually functional as we get older. If that's something that's important to us, it happens to be important to me. If we want to be able to play with our kids, if we want to be able to go on the hikes and the trips and the travel and do the things, optimizing your physical fitness and work capacity, the younger you are to the highest level you can, is going to set you up for success there. So getting to where we are intentionally training 5 to 7 days per week, moving our bodies, eating healthy, and moving the needle on that, we have to make a choice of how we're going to approach all the other influencers in our life that can take away from that. So we have to deal with those other stressors or understand we're not going to get the best out of what we can get out of our health and fitness. And that was a word dump, but I want to reiterate that I understand that everybody's at a different place in their life and their journey. Kids' ages, job, career, life circumstances and shit going on. Like everybody wakes up every single day with something different. You do versus me. We own the same business. We have different stressors that drive us in this business. We have different stressors that drive us at home. There's just differences for every single human being. So being able to empathetically work with somebody and digest that and then put the most focus and purpose into training and every other aspect is the best way to approach this as a coach. So those of you guys, there's no question that getting more physically fit is probably going to add value to every other aspect of your life. Period. It's going to make you more productive. You're going to have more energy. You're going to sleep better. When you sleep better, your stress management's going to improve dramatically. There's no question. Physical activity positively influences all these other factors in life. And then when you're happier, maybe your spouse is happier and everything's better. When you're eating healthier and spouse is eating healthier, everybody's eating healthier, people are sleeping better, people are recovering. Like it all works together. So look at it all. So overtraining, I do use where my libido's at for a 41-year-old who is on hormone replacement therapy as a subjective cue to what's going on in my life. And if I am maybe tipping the scales too far, pushing too hard, and not recovering from it appropriately. I can say this as of this moment today, right now, I'm having conflicts in this issue. And it has to do with the huge increase in aerobic training that I've done in the last 10, 12 weeks.
For high rocks.
For high rocks leading into the RTO, doing the ultra team. I have noticed my fitness has improved, my running capacity has improved, my VO2 max has improved, but I can tell, and I'm on HRT, I get exogenous hormones. I can tell that my recovery from increasing so much volume in the aerobic space has been negatively impacting me in this area.
I think that goes back to the dosing poison example.
100%.
Analogy is like you could say like when people complain or use the excuse of like not wanting to get bulky through lifting, like there's negatives that can happen through your joints and everything. If you're constantly lifting, not doing any aerobic, like you're not building your cardiovascular, there's negatives to what people would think.
And
Contrary to popular belief, doing aerobic stuff only is not going to make you lose weight, and doing too much of it can actually have its own detriments. Where like marathon runners, like female marathon runners that are actually professional like marathon runners, vast, maybe not majority, but there's a shitload of them that can't even have periods or anything anymore because they've beat their body into this submission through overtraining on the aerobic side of things.
It's the whole concept. Even when it comes to that topic, it comes down to not having the calories on board to support hormone production. When your body fat drops too low, hormone production goes to shit. When you are under-caloried, your hormones go to shit. And so, as everybody knows, I'm on hormone replacement therapy. I get testosterone exogenously. So my hormone signaling is gone internally. And I still notice my body not responding downstream of what the hormones do from overtraining. And I think a big part of that when it comes to the massive increase in aerobic training for me personally has to do with getting enough calories in. I don't know if I told you this, but like I'm seriously considering starting to take mass gainer, which I've never taken in my life, just to cram in more calories.
But it makes sense, inputs to outputs though.
I'm down 20 pounds.
Yeah, your output is is exceeding your input. So like a scenario like that would make sense to increase your caloric intake through supplementation because you're not just gonna be stuffing your face full of food all
like
day.
I tell people, like when you eat whole food, which is mostly what I eat, you know what I eat. I make us the same food. It's hard to really go over caloric needs when you're eating healthy whole food. Yeah, you get full. You're satisfied. And because my refusal to eat highly processed, highly caloric foods, and you'll hear this, Michael Phelps, when he was training for the Olympics, he would eat like, 3X large pizzas a day or some shit? Yeah. Because of the amount of caloric burn he would go through.
You can't keep up with, 10,000
You have to eat this highly caloric, ultra-processed food to keep up with some of these training demands. And because of the way my family lives, I refuse to do it. And that's where I'm struggling right now. Like me and Faye were talking about this, and when she was training for an Ironman, like they had no problems going and killing a whole cheesecake by themselves after training. And that's extremely caloric dense, right? You just need the calories to support training, and that's where that equation comes in. But because I'm health first and my family's health is priority and we don't eat that way, it's been a struggle for me to get calories in with the increased aerobic volume, which is affecting all this.
Supplementation is important in scenarios like this. Like supplementation is addition to something that you're trying to add on top of. Like if you're a little guy trying to gain weight and you're already eating all the food and you want to gain more weight, it helps to add in to supplement too. Or you supplement because of lack of something. You're supplementing here because your outputs are exceeding your inputs, and you can't just be stuffing your face full of healthy food all day long. It's not viable. Then you could argue that wouldn't even help your outputs because you wouldn't want to run because you just feel like a sack of shit because of how much food you're eating.
Yeah, and like that is an equation that I'm working through right now.
Yeah,
and the last deal that I'll before we move on. I forgot it. This is a heavy topic.
So
You guys.
I'll-
that's what I was talking about. Medications. So I was on a blood pressure med. Year or so ago, I started because when your blood pressure is chronically too high, and I lived in denial of my blood pressure going up a little bit each year. I was consistently in the 140s over 90s, like 8-9 months ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided, I think it's Lipinicil. I can't remember the names of these things, but my wife knows all this stuff. But I was on a low dose blood pressure med to get my blood pressure normalized. Because when your blood pressure is chronically elevated over time, it can affect kidney function, and it is one of the silent killers of society. Hypertension, prehypertension, it goes on undiagnosed 10, 20 years, and then all of a sudden you're having cardiac events. Because when the face of blood pressure shows up as a symptom, shit's gone sideways bad.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I check my blood pressure regularly and this and that, and noticed this trend, and knowing these outcomes, I decided, okay, I'm going to go on a low-dose blood pressure med. And testosterone replacement therapy can, in some people, increase blood pressure. So, I have this going on, that going on. I take the med. Blood pressure normalizes, feeling great. We get rid of big stressor, right? We make the decision that we're going to go down to one gym. Simplified our lives in many very meaningful way. And then I start training for high rocks and increasing my aerobic work. Well, my blood pressure, I was still on the med. And I was still checking my blood pressure, but it was stable. So like once a week, I wasn't checking it every single day anymore for like a 3-week window, 4-week window. Mm-hmm. And it dropped dramatically to where like 90 over 50. To where I couldn't, you remembered, like if I stood up too quick, I'd get lightheaded, mm-hmm. shit, where I was like kind of passing out, and it was happening often. Check my blood pressure, super low. So what I'm getting at here is this is the first time, so high blood pressure can cause erectile dysfunction, low libido. Low blood pressure can cause this. And I will say, not embarrassed to say it, but this was the first time in my life that I experienced erectile dysfunction. Like, it no worky. And it being a healthy, fit 41-year-old on HRT, it was not a revelation, but just like a sympathy for people that actually do have to deal with that all the time. Mm-hmm. Like I was like, your brain's engaged, your desire's there, your libido is there. Like my libido existed.
Yeah. Little homie just didn't want to come out of the cave.
He didn't want to work. And that was quite stressful for me. Because like, okay, what's wrong with me now? What's broken? What's going on here?
Yeah.
And honestly, it took over a month for my blood pressure. I got off the meds. Everything's normalized now. My blood pressure is perfect. And I've normalized. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to that, I'm talking specifically men out there, just have a primary care provider that knows what the hell they're doing, that can have some conversations. I'm grateful that I live with one. And then my main primary care provider, he's pretty awesome. And I'm very comfortable having these conversations so that we're able to like, okay, you're coming off the meds, but I need you to track it. We want to see you regain normal function as a healthy, thriving, male. And, yeah, so that goes back to know medications, know your lifestyle, know your body. And that was just, I guess, a side story.
So I'm gonna sum all this up off the top of my head to kind of break it down, because I know there's a lot of information. There's probably an hour, probably
and 20
more
minutes
than even what we were talking about, and you still got like 12 pages on there. But we'll move on because we're gonna go into our Instagram and general questions here next. Mm-hmm. But if I had to sum all that up, all jokes aside, if the libido is not there, the interest is not there, and you know that it should be, you probably have something else going on in your life. And it is up to us with the information available to pick out a few of these things that we can figure out. So what I would say is, if this is something you do struggle with, and this is a private thing for most people, not everybody. Some people are, loud and proud about it, about what they do at home. But if this is truly a struggle, you're like, I know I should, but I don't really want to. Whatever it is, this is a marker for something else is going on in your life. And what is that marker? Yeah. I would pick 2 to 3 things in your life. Are you eating hyper palatable foods, too processed? You eating Twizzlers and shit off the shelf? Are you overtraining? Are you drinking too much alcohol? Is the stress at work doing a number on you? Can you mitigate it there? I would pick 2 to 3 things that stand out to you. Like you had, I'll use you as an example here. I'm gonna finish up my thought. Is you are known in reputation in the gym to have everything pretty dialed, pretty healthy dude. Okay, but you still have we all have our shit. So for you, it's stressful because you have everything dialed, and that was the last limiting factor. For most people, there's going to be multiple there. And for most of us, fortunately, we will be able to pick some of these things. I can guarantee there's no one in the gym that I know of, have ever experienced, who's going to be as disciplined as my brother is with all this stuff. Just growing up with you and where you're at, and especially with the stuff with Claire in the household, like, you're the exception, right? Most of us, if we take a hard look in the mirror, can pick 2 to 3 things that, like, if I optimize those things, it will improve this. And it may not even be like, a horny issue. It could be just like a quality of life, how you sleep, how you handle stress, bubble guts. I mean, it could be anything. Mm-hmm. Pick 2 to 3 things that are in your control. If you're hella depressed and anxious about what's happening in the world, get off Instagram. Mm-hmm. All right. If you're like, man, I can't take a normal dump, maybe get in some more fiber. Like, there are things that you can do to mitigate these things. Find 2 to 3 of them, make it happen. And if you have questions after that, you do those things and you're still struggling, that's where you'd have, but that's where it's worth, or even before that, getting in with your primary care, asking us, maybe we can give you some insight or guide you in the right direction to go with that. So being horny is good. If you want to be horny and can't be horny, then there's something going on. Yeah. That is my summed up version of all of that.
Yeah. Just to reiterate here, low libido is not a diagnostic test. It's not an objective test for anybody, male, female. It's a question, right? It's a question, and it's a signal of maybe, and it's going to be more meaningful to some than others. So using it in that subjective nature, improving every aspect of your health can have a very positive influence on it. I do think sexual health is an important conversation for people. It's just not something that's openly talked about for obvious reasons. And yeah, I would give it a level of importance in your subjective outlook on how you approach your health. Because weight training does increase your testosterone. Eating healthy does increase your testosterone. Sleeping does increase your doing all these healthy things increases your sexual hormones, both men and women, and should have a positive influence in this area if it's something that's important to you.
Perfect. Moving on from being horny. We're going to go over just a couple fun questions now to finish out the episode. A general question. It seems silly. It's something I struggle with because I have a sweet tooth, but it seems silly, but it's not.
All right.
And for us less perfect people like myself, all right, not you over there with all the vascularity and abs. Me over here with the...
Starting to look like I got some kind of other disease. Dropped 20 pounds.
How should I approach cheat meals?
How should you approach cheat meals? Cheat meals comes down to a calorie equation and goal-driven decision. I look at food with purpose. I like my food to taste good. Like, I don't want to just... I joke sometimes that, I'm eating cardboard right now. A lot of the food I eat is with... almost everything I eat now is purpose driven. Yes, I'm that fucking guy, but it's very driven by my daughter and the way our house approaches nutrition and health now. So when it comes to people living 90% healthy, 80, still, you never know when you're going to get hit by a car, slip and fall in the bathtub and break your neck. And if you want to go have that great meal, have that treat, that dessert, by all means, these one-offs aren't going to kill you. But I do think we need to be intentional about it, and it's goal-driven. So let me do the quick math real quick.
Oh, while you're figuring that out, I would say the first thing you need to do is
I figured it out.
to define your cheat meal. Are we talking about cheat meal? Are we talking about cheat week? Are we talking about cheat month? Are we talking about cheat weekends?
I would say general context for most people is Monday through Friday, pretty good. Days and lives are structured Monday through Friday. Work, kids, school, everything's really structured. Once we get to the weekend, you want to kind of not have structure. So for a lot of people, it's going out to eat. We're going to go out to dinner. We're going to go out to breakfast. Mm-hmm. We're going to order food. We're going to have food delivered. Friday night, we're going to have pizza delivered. I would say the majority of people, it's a 1 or 2 meal situation and or weekend, Saturday, Sunday situation. Yeah, there's a lot of people out there that eat like shit Monday through Fridays, but I'd say if people are talking about cheat meals, I would say they're trying to put intention into some aspect of their diet, or they would just say, well, my diet sucks. But they're aware of a certain block of their diet that they recognize that is a cheat meal. Does that make sense?
Yes. Contextually, I think there's nuances, scenarios with different people that don't necessarily look at a meal as a cheat meal, being able to identify what the cheat meal is. If I look at a pint of ice cream, say, okay, yeah, this is cheating. I'm going to eat this whole pint of ice cream. But earlier in the day, I ordered a cheeseburger. I'm like, yeah, well, it's not that bad. In my head, I'm not saying me, but this is generally, people won't categorize that as a cheat meal based off of your goals and what your lifestyle has looked like. Like the cheat meal, that's why I brought up the cheat week and the cheat month and the cheat lifestyle. If you're in your head kind of eating healthy, but every time you pass by the cupboard, you grab a handful of peach rings or, trail mix with extra M&Ms, like these cheat meals are irrelevant because of the lifestyle that goes into those cheat meals. So if you're truly laying it out as a cheat meal, there's probably a level of discipline there in your other aspects of your life. Like you said, your Monday through Friday, maybe your weekends, we'll get to. But you need to be able to identify your cheat meal. And a simple thing that I asked myself this question that I came up with a long time ago, I'm sure I'm not like the originator of this, is whatever I put in my mouth, drinking or eating, it's either going to get me one step closer to my goals or one step backward. And I need to be able to accept that if what I'm about to consume is going to take me backwards, I'm going to be okay with it. So if I go to eat something on the weekend, I'm like, yeah, we're going to go fat shitting like what me and my brother used to do. We're going to eat an extra large Pizookie at BJ's, maybe 2 of them because we've done that before. And we know consuming this is probably going to take us a couple steps back. All the work that we put in towards getting to this point and everything, like we're probably taking a step back. We're accepting that we're doing this, why we gave it the verb and adjective of going out fat shitting. You're consciously accepting that you're doing this. So every time, I would say, if you can get in a habit of every time you put something in your mouth, drinking or eating, is this putting me closer to my goals or farther away?
Yeah.
If it's going to put me farther away, I need to be okay with it. Or if oh no, this is going to put me farther away, it's not worth it. This bite of ice cream or this pint of ice cream or whatever it may be is not worth it anymore if I look at it from that scope.
Yeah.
So your cheat meal, like Faye, training for an Ironman, okay, the hardest physical event in the world, her eating a cheesecake, for most of us, yeah, that's a big step back. That is a dense piece of freaking cheesecake.
It's 5,000 calories.
For her, in what she was doing,
it was needed.
It's not. It's actually probably a step forward.
It is a step forward.
Because it is one of the only ways to get in that caloric need for the output that she was putting forth. So you need to put it in context, what your daily life looks like. and be honest with yourself. I mean, honestly, like sometimes, a lot of times when I eat some of the shit, and I got a sweet tooth. I love me some junk food. I know when I'm consuming those things, I know that I'm not the next day wondering like, oh man, why am I not losing weight? Or why do I feel like shit? Like I know sometimes to my own detriment, like, yeah, it does make me feel like shit, but I might do it again. Like I know these things. And then there's just a level of maturity to be like, okay, pull your head out of your ass, bro, and just start making better decisions, which is what I've been doing lately. But again, I love that because it's worked really well for me and a couple people I've talked to. If you just look at whatever you're eating, is it putting me closer or farther away? And if your farther aways outweigh, like if you tallied them up and your farther aways are greater than putting you closer to your goal, there's your literal information, objective data right there.
Yeah. I mean, and not all food needs to be fear-mongered.
No.
Right? So it's like, you have marketing presence out there, you have this, you have that. It's quantity, it's dose dependent, and it's goal dependent. So is it moving me closer or further away from my goals, like you said? I will say there are some products out there and marketing things that you might actually think and believe that that's moving you closer to your goal.
Yeah. But it's not.
I'm sorry, but
And that's an educational
It's an
piece.
education thing. And I'd say just get in the habit of asking the questions about how's this food made, what the ingredients are, put a little effort understanding the ingredients, understanding the caloric impact of that food. There's some things out there that are healthy, whole food, massive caloric impact. For instance, people are like, well, why aren't you getting your calories in? Well, for me to punch the calorie curve up, for me personally, I would have to increase my fat intake. Well, if I increase my fat intake, I know this, my cholesterol is going to go up. I am actively trying to keep my cholesterol down. Even if I'm burning that off training, it's an equation I'm not willing to play with.
So not to interrupt you, but I know this would be a question, is like, let's say the high fat meal, like that cholesterol. Now, I'll put it in the context of this, approaching as a cheat meal. If you have like one cheat meal that is higher in fat, is that going to have an overall effect on elevating your cholesterol? Just that one meal, like that's your cheat meal? Or is it more of like weeks of doing it, months of doing it, lifestyle? Like, is the one meal going to, if you went and had your blood work done, you know, the very next day, is that one meal going to screw everything up?
It will elevate it. You go eat a high fatty meal and go do blood work. That's why they typically want it fasted 12 hours. So if you eat a meal and go immediately do blood work, it can elevate your blood lipids. Does that mean that you are chronically elevated? No.
Yeah.
So that meal can throw off that reading.
Yeah, but it comes down. The one meal is not going to ruin everything for you.
These are all chronic exposures, and your body not able to deal with it day in, day out chronically is what elevates these blood markers.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, so cheat meals, yeah, I would say just ask yourself the verbal question. Yes or no, is this pushing me closer or farther away? And honestly, in my experience, I think that can clear up a lot of things. And if you're honestly like, yeah, it's pushing me away. Yeah, it's pushing me away. And you keep doing that, then you really can't, you have no grounds to ask questions or complain about your lifestyle to your coach if you can honestly assess that. Yeah, everything I eat is shit.
And I throw this out there often. I'm here to help you.
Yes. 100%.
I'm willing to dive in and ask you the questions because there are people out there that genuinely don't know. Like, is this food bad? Is it, and they also don't know, like, my goal is X, get to 15% body fat. They don't have the framework, understand what that actually is going to take. So if you're healthy Monday through Friday and kind of do whatever you want Saturday, Sunday, you're at 71%. That's a C grade. Expect a C body.
Yeah.
Right? Expect a C physique, accept a C metabolic health, accept a C grade.
I love analogies. It's a great way to look at it.
So that's
grading scale.
How I look at it. One meal out of 7 full days of eating is still like a 95%, 98% grade. One meal out of a week of meals.
Yep.
So if you're looking at all your nutritional intake across 7 days, and I'm going to go out to dinner with my family, have a drink, eat the cheeseburger and fries, and get a dessert, that one meal out of my last 7 days, I'm still at 95%.
Yeah.
I care less about that meal.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, if
So-
you looked at some people with super busy lives, they can do a breakfast, they do a family dinner. Let's just say you have a healthy breakfast, but you have a super high calorie dense and not in a good way dinner, like fettuccine Alfredo or whatever. You can literally look at a mathematical equation. 50% of your intake is not good.
Not good. And when it comes to calories, you guys, calories needs to be looked at from a weekly, monthly scale, not a meal by meal scale. Meals do matter in caloric intake. They're all additive, but we need to look at, you need to stop microanalyzing calories on such a small scale and look at it broader. It'll be more impactful for you making these decisions. Like, I don't care if my breakfast had an extra 500 calories in it. Like, it's going to get made up somewhere. So, you guys, when it comes to nutrition, I'm here to help you. I want to help you. I don't, and one member yesterday told me, they're like, well, I don't set up a meeting with you because I know what to do. I just don't do it.
Yeah, no.
And that's valid. Like, people, there's a lot of people out there that know what to do. They're just not, they haven't had that moment of, they don't have that reason why to change what they're changing, which is fine. That's not a bad thing. Like, if you're happy where you're at, cool. By all means.
It's when we both had these conversations of like, man, I'm just really like, I'm frustrated and stressed. I'm not losing weight. Well, what does your lifestyle look like? What are you eating? Well, I eat X, X, and Y. Well, let's cut that out. No, I like those things. Well, what do you do on the weekends? I drink a ton. Well, let's stop drinking as much on the weekends. No, I don't want to. It's like, well, okay, then just accept.
Well, you just know where I'm at with those people.
I know.
I don't give a fuck.
So, but these are conversations we had. You got to look in the mirror and be like, okay, yes, I'm willing to do these things, or I'm not. And if you're not, then be happy with what you're doing.
It's hard. It's trial and error, but it's a process, and it's a long process. Somebody made a comment to me the other day, like, dude, you're all shredded now. Yeah, I get it. Jacob makes me look good on Instagram now. But that's been near a 3-year process.
Yeah.
Going from a pretty decent level of fitness. Like, I wasn't unfit 3 years ago, pre-Claire's thing. But to where I am now, physique-wise, has been a 3-year process of owning every fucking aspect of all this. And it's not for everybody.
Helps when the photographer puts out bangers.
Yeah, but when it comes to your overarching health, when it comes body composition, I think women need to strive to be under 30% body fat, and men need to strive to be under 20% body fat. When you're over those, you're jeopardizing your metabolic health in a very dramatic way. So if you're under those and you're happy, cool. If you're not under those and you're not happy and you need help, I'm here to help. If you are under those and you want to take it to another level, I'm here to help. Just know I'm here to help. I'm very honest with you guys. It's probably the scariest part, but I'm here to help. And if you want to sit down and have those conversations, I'm more than happy to do it.
All right. 2 more questions. Then we'll call it a day. What's the worst fitness advice you've ever received or ever heard?
The worst fitness advice. I mean, in practical, like, more is better. Because that's not the case. More is not always better. So that's like a practical application. Walking is useless because it's not. It's extremely powerful. Intensity cures all. Like, that's not true at all.
Mine, even though I'm not the nutrition guy, would be from people from a macro standpoint, not like a macro, like big picture thing. I'm literally talking about macros on nutrition. Is that as long as you're hitting your macros, it does not matter what you are eating. Some of the more popular fitness people that I followed in the past have literally said this: as long as you're hitting your numbers, it doesn't matter how you get them.
Well, I will argue that. even being the guy that refuses to eat processed food. It's goal dependent and how it's going to disrupt your gut and your microbiome and this and that. Yes, but at the end of the day, the depth of my research and understanding physiology, the mass majority of composition is a calorie equation, independent of what the macronutrient is.
The reason why I bring that up is because there's two people that were tracking their macros using influencers and would track them eating Snickers and pastas and hyperpalatable processed foods on that. It wouldn't change their lifestyle in the shit food that they were eating because those were still helping them hit macro numbers, proteins, carbs.
Yeah, they're
fats.
just so
They're ignoring all the chemicals with it, the high amounts of sugar, but it was some of these things were getting them closer to hitting their macros. So they did not change anything in their lifestyle because the blanket advice of it does not matter what you're consuming as long as you're hitting your macros.
So every macronutrient is going to have a different effect on your metabolic function. Right, so you're eating Snickers. It's going to have a much different impact on your insulin sensitivity and your pancreatic response to it than eating fruit. Could be equal in sugar. Could be a completely different response because of fiber. Snickers has little to zero vitamin mineral to it. Your body needs vitamins, minerals for metabolic processes. So that's where the hole gets punched in to eat whatever you want as long as you hit your macros. You can hit your macros of fat, protein, and carbohydrates made up of the most random, god-awful shit. But it's so nutrient depleted, vitamin, mineral-wise, fiber-wise, that it's going to wreck your health. Now, from a thermogenic standpoint, if we're controlling calories equally, person eating shit food, person eating healthy food, calories controlled, could have the same weight, body composition adjustment over time. One person's probably going to feel and perform a hell of a lot better. The other person's probably going to crash and burn sometime. And that's where the quality equation comes in my mind. If you're just trying to control some fat, cut calories and manage calories, you can control fat. If you want to perform and have your body function optimally, that's where that whole concept is going to go to complete shit. So you have to ask yourself that question on what you want out of it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it was interesting to me looking at that because I understand where you're where it's coming, like you said, from a thermogenic standpoint.
So
where it's coming
influencers want to use that to make counting your calories easier.
Yeah.
Mentally, I don't have to cut out all these foods I love, right? It's a very cushy way to make you feel comfortable doing, quote unquote, whatever diet you're doing. Like, I can still have this. And the truth is, yes, you can. But if that's the makeup of your food, your body's going to crash and burn.
Yep. Okay, last question. If you could only pick one exercise to do for the rest of your life, you come into the gym, you cannot do another thing, or you do it from the comfort of your home, wherever, you could only do one thing forever, what would it be?
So to answer this question, it has to be indefinitely scalable. I have to be able to do it regardless of my age. It has to hit every single muscle group in the body. It has to work my cardiovascular system also. That move is a squat clean thruster.
That's what I was going to say too. Damn it, I was hoping you would say something else.
It's the only move.
Yeah.
It's the only answer.
I mean, from us being educated and knowing, some people might wonder why would this be the choice of movement? Obviously, I didn't really know what you were going to say. I kind of gave you a preface of some of these questions beforehand, but I had no clue what you were going to say. Mine is the squat clean thruster. It is the only, like to your point, if it can be scaled up or down, It's the only true complete full body exercise you can do. You get pulling from the floor, from the deadlift to the clean portion. You get leg work from the squat, and then you get pressing from the overhead.
Yeah, there's not a muscle. If you hooked up an EMG to me, there's nothing that would be left out.
Yeah.
Now, some muscles are working harder than others.
Sure.
But
it's the only thing that
one move is going to hit it all.
you can do it all. You can do very lightweight for a ton of reps. Do 100 squat clean thrusters at a time with an empty barbell. You could get a pretty damn good workout in.
Rip your heart rate up.
Do 5 really maximal singles. Work on your strength. So that's true. Okay, so since we're both on the same subject, I'll narrow it down. What if you could only pick one body weight movement? What would it be?
For the rest of my life, body weight. I like balance. What's my main goal in this?
Nothing.
Long-term health?
You get your choice. You can pick one body weight movement. You can never do anything else ever again.
It's probably going to be a lunge.
Okay. Interesting. A lunge. Because you got to build that ass and legs.
Well, it works the legs unilaterally. Legs are the biggest muscles in your group. They're the biggest dump for glucose. They're going to help stabilize your metabolic health more than any other exercise, using the leg muscles.
Gotcha.
Right? So if I'm not going to just pick doing push-ups. It's some of the smallest muscles.
Sure.
So for long-term health, I can lunge fast, get my heart rate up. I can lunge under tempo, build strength, and probably going to build a great ass in that. I'll be sad because I do like working my upper body, but I would want something that is scalable also. Air squats might get pretty gross over time. I feel the lunge is a safer exercise to do in my 80s and 90s, potentially.
I have my answer.
Burpees.
My least favorite movement of all time would be the burpee. And I'll throw in where I coach to not do this as an efficient burpee, the shitty burpee with the air squat.
So if
burpees, you look conditioning, a little pushing, a little squatting.
No,
you can't change your answer.
I'm not changing my answer, but that is a better exercise to pick.
All right. Well, so today we talked about how to be horny, what makes you not horny. If you can't be horny, here are some of the things to do to make you horny. But in all reality, all jokes aside, it is a very strong, heavy marker, metabolic health marker.
It's a very good subjective thing to be mindful of.
Yep. And you can look at that yourself and be like, maybe I actually do struggle with these things, or maybe I don't. Okay. Maybe the horniest person that ever walked the face of the earth. But that's going to wrap up episode 2 for us. We're going to keep these things going. I'll be putting out IG things for you guys to ask questions, submit whatever questions. We may address them, may not. We'll see. But number 2 in the books. And yeah, that's about all I got. I don't have a closing statement. Damn it. I need to work on that. All right. That's it, you guys.
Love you guys. Peace.
Thank you for being here. We'll see you in the next one.